All right. So I think I'm getting this thing figured out a little bit. I think I'm live. We'll find out anyways. And broadcast. All right. So I think I'm good. So hopefully you can see my screen. And basically, I get a lot of talk about basic finance. And essentially, there's two ways. Everything left and right, up and down, black and white, whatever you want to call it. There's basically two ways or two philosophies to finance. And it's very easy to tell who is who. So basically, I got my little whiteboard out here, and basically, you have an income, and then you've got your basic expenses, your bills, your hobbies, your home, your car, whatever your bills are, your electric, cell phone, stuff like that. And then you've got a saving side, and this is money you put away. Um, and here's what I find is you either live on this side or you live on this side. Um, and the funny thing is, people who live in the saving side don't understand people who live on the expense side. People who live on this income side don't understand people who live on the saving side. And it's very easy to tell which one you are, because if you get basic your paycheck, you spend bills, and you always say, I'll save later, you are on the left side. And if you doubt yourself, you can say simple things like, if you get your tax return, you get a chunk of money back. Do you save it or do you spend it? And the biggest test would be, say you can look back and say, 2 years ago when I got my tax return, do you still have that money? Those people who save, if they get your tax return, you invest it, you save it, you buy something of value with it, something that puts you on the saving side. And this is the, I don't want to say the easier way to live. It's harder to get started, but people who live in this side, I don't want to say have an easy life, understand life, I think, in my eyes. Because I'm on this side here, this basically is your living to work. And this is kind of those things where my dad taught me very young. You work 40 hours, you get paid 40 hours. Technically, you did not make any money because it's an exchange, right? It's an exchange of 40 hours worth of labor for X amount of dollars. And to make things worse, of course, on these dollars, you're taxed and you pay fees and you have all this stuff. So you lose in that transaction. It's a very tough way to live. So you go to work, you collect your money, you pay these bills, and whatever you have left is whatever you intend to do whatever with. And that's, my dad was very hard on that. Like, why would you go to work 40 hours a week, make this money, spend this money, and have zero at the end of the week? Might as well just, he would always tell me, might as well just stay home, be a bum, and do nothing. Essentially, you end up in the same place. So he taught me very early on that was a bad way to live. So people who prosper will always live on the right side. If you're living on the left side, you'll never get anywhere. You'll always be the same. That's just what it is income in, income out, income in, income out, and that's just the way it is. You'll never have extra money to save. It just doesn't work that way. So the basic philosophy is, I wish I could write more on my whiteboard, but basic philosophy is, my dad had this thing for savings, is, when you want to retire kind of talk, and he would say, if you want to retire at age 60, if you start working at age 20, it's just a 40-year working life. He says, so if you want to retire for 40 years, you would have to save that percentage of money. I don't think that made a lot of sense the way I said it. So his philosophy was always 50%. His thing was, if you worked 20 years of life, you could retire for 20 years of life, as long as you're able to live in that 50% of your income. In today's world, it doesn't really exist. But that's kind of his theory, but just very simple and basic. Really kind of, brain's going all over the place because I didn't really map this out how I wanted it to go. So how do I want to start this? Yeah. So income. So everybody has this, what I'm going to call, if I can do this here. They can do me a new whiteboard here. I don't know how to start a new one. So we're going to do this thing called TCO. And this is critical. So everybody has a total cost of ownership, right? And this is where it's hard to get people to understand, is this TCO, total cost of ownership. Every individual has this cost. And this is your basic, what you need to stay alive. You need shelter, food, vehicle, whatever you need. And there's a number to that. And people have to understand what that number is, because this is critical. So most people say, just to put a number to it, $4,000, just for giggles. That's your TCO. So you have to have an income of $4,000 to maintain your basic life skills. So if you have a job that pays to $4,000 a month, we'll call it a month, you're never going to get anywhere. So the trick comes into where if you earn $5,000 a month, then what you do with it is you start divvying it up on the right side. This really isn't very smooth as much as I thought it would be. Yeah. So this total cost of ownership, you need to be aware of, because this is also the key to your retirement, right? So it's not so much when you want to retire, you just save $1 million and you just stop working. The ideal plan of retirement is to make enough money to cover your TCO. At that point, you can retire. So once you're making enough money that covers your total cost of ownership, you no longer have to work. It's as simple as that. That's retirement. People have these lost affirmations of, they want to get these grand things and travel across the world. And so you have to really create a lot of income to do that. So there's a lot of ways we can talk about creating income to cover your TCO. But most people go with the income, they get a job, they do this work, and they create these large bills. And you see these people, they buy bigger cars and bigger houses, and I'm dumbfounded by that, because you're increasing your TCO, which is lengthening your time of retirement. So those who kind of live over here, you'll find tend to live more frugally, because they understand once you get to a point of residual income, this income is different. It's no longer that transfer of 40 hours for 40 hours of pay. Then it becomes residual, which means you actually don't have to work the 40 hours. You might have to maintain it, manage it, and things like that. But this is a different way to live. And then when you get on the side, it's easy to keep going bigger, 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 bigger. Just like when you're on the left side, it's easier to get smaller, 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 because like I said, your expenses get bigger and bigger, right? You buy your first car, yeah, it's nice. Well, now you realize you want a leather seat. Then you buy a more expensive car. You get a house, you realize you need an extra bedroom. So you buy an extra bedroom. You have a cool cell phone, then you realize the new iPhone comes on. You want a new iPhone. This is very easily trapped to keep increasing your TCO, which keeps you trapped in this income, pay your bills stuff. So you really have to learn to live below your means. That's a whole different discussion. But that's kind of the basics today. I just want people to understand that there's two ways to live. Basically, it's a left and a right. You either live on your expense. This should really be called expense side, not really income. Your expense side, where you just work to pay your bills and you go through life, and nothing wrong with that. And then there's the saving side, when you have extra money, or not really extra money. If you people who devote their primary life into saving the money they make, they grow this net worth. So those are the two kinds of people you see. As you look around at people, you kind of can tell where they live. It's kind of fascinating to see how everybody does it. It's funny because people on this side here, the expense side, there's not really much to share, right? You get your check, you pay your bills, and that's it. There's really nothing to share. People on this right side, savings, there's a whole community of people that have almost working together. There's different ways to save and invest, and what are you making here? How are you making it? There's a whole different community. But when we're living on this side, it's the same thing. Oh, I have a nicer car. I got the new phone. I got this vacation. People will talk in circles like that. People on this side don't want to talk about this side. And people on the saving side don't want to talk about spending because they're trying to save for a future. So they contradict themselves, and it's funny to see each side. So that's my little whiteboard theory for the day. And again, test video, so we'll see how it goes, and we'll go from there.